I'm as tough as the crust of the earth is. I move mountains, I move churches, and I glow cause I know what my worth is. I don't ask how hard the work is. Got a rough, indestructible surface. Diamonds and platinum, I find them, I flatten them. I take what I'm handed, I break what's demanded. But under the surface, I feel berserk as a tightrope walker on a three-ring circus. Under the surface, there's Hercules everlasting. Yo, I don't wanna find service. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless, but I can be of service. I know how to crack the straw in the sack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? It's pressure like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa. Pressure like a drip, 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 just go pop. Whoa, oh, oh. Give it to your sister's older. Give a load of heavy things we can't shoulder. Who am I if I can't run with the ball? If I fall to pressure like a drip, 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 then it won't let go. Whoa, pressure like a tick, tick, tick till it's ready to blow. Whoa, oh, oh, give it to your sister stronger. See if she can hang on a little longer. Who am I if I can't carry it all? If I falter under the surface, I have nerves and the worst and the worry something that's gonna hurt us. Under the surface, the ship doesn't destroy us or hurt our baby iceberg is. Under the surface, I'm gonna try and purpose, and I think I'll preserve this. My number don't know the right wind blows. He tries to stop the tumbling, but it goes. But wait, if I could shake the crushing weight of expectations, would that free some room for joy or relaxation or simple pleasure? Instead we measure this growing pressure. Keeps growing, keeps going, 'cause all we know is pressure like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa, pressure like a tip, 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 just go pop. Whoa, oh, oh, give it to your sister, it doesn't hurt, and see if she can handle every family burden. Watch as she buckles and bends but never breaks. No mistakes, just pressure like a drip, 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 and won't let go. Whoa, pressure like a tick, 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 till it's ready to blow. Whoa, give it to your sister and never wonder if the same pressure would have pulled you under. Who am I if I don't have what it takes? No cracks, no breaks, no mistakes, no pressure.
Welcome to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1711 along with the town of Needham. We're a proud LGBTQ welcoming congregation, a climate justice seeking green sanctuary, and a level 2 sanctuary supporting congregation for immigration justice. Wherever you are, whatever your background, and wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. I'm Kevin McCormick. My wife, Jane McKean, and I have been coming to First Parish for about 6 years. I'm a member of the Budget Drive team, who have been working on the pledge over the last few months. Immediately after this welcome, you'll be hearing more about the pledge from David Menard, another member of the Budget Drive team. As you know, our congregation is gathering for Sunday services and programming in a hybrid multi-platform format with masked in-person as well as online gatherings. As Unitarian Universalists, we have an ethical commitment to serving the most vulnerable, which will guide our ongoing work to continue to deliver excellent online programs which complement our in-person ones. We hope all of you will plug into our Zoom gathering opportunities throughout the week, including Zoom social hour after every Sunday service. Although our buildings remain under certain restrictions due to COVID-19 pandemic, our faith community welcomes everyone. You can learn more about all that's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uneedham.org, or by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For all Zoom links and the most updated information, please sign up for our weekly email newsletter by going to our website and clicking Get Involved Newsletter, or sending your request to office@uneedham.org. Our sincere hope is that these online, hybrid, and outdoor services and connection opportunities will help us keep the public health precautions required during this pandemic without losing much of the spiritual, emotional, and social closeness that we treasure in our faith community. If you're watching the service from outside the church, please take a moment now to say hello and introduce yourself in the chat box. Welcome again to everyone, and good morning.
I'm David Menard with an update on the budget drive. A few weeks back, our pledge numbers were around $247,000. And as of this Friday, we are at $331,000. Our goal is $375,000. Obviously, this is significant progress. But that remaining amount that we have to go, that inch or so at the top of the bar, represents the difference between doing pretty much everything that we'd like to do in the upcoming year or having to cut important parts of our budget. What does that mean? In the end, that is for the annual meeting to decide based on parish committee recommendations, but significant cuts to programs like music, lifelong learning, and religious education would probably have to be made. None of us wants this. Folks, simply put, we have had remarkable success as a small congregation weathering this awful pandemic, both in continuity of programs and for the most part financially, we have held our own. But with the physical church closed or with limited access for months at a time, gaining new and contributing members is a major challenge. And new members help make up for normal membership attrition due to deaths and people moving on. But here's what you can do. If you haven't yet pledged, please do it right now. And consider increasing your number over last year's pledge, if at all possible. And if you have already pledged, first of all, thank you. Consider raising it. It's easy to go into Realm and make that increase, or you could contact the office or get in touch with a member of the Budget Drive Committee to revise that number. So let's finish up this important budget drive on a strong note, looking forward to being fully together again and still seeking our true north. Thank you.
Many thanks to David, Kevin, Bob DeNoble, and Linda Davis for all their hard work this season, and to Eva Janskowitz and Peter Panoff for their assistance with the drive. Since David filmed this update, we now have received $335,000 in pledges, so we are still moving towards the finish we need, really with a basement of $345,000 and the reach of $375,000. As we light our chalice, symbol of our faith, we read words from modern Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Daniel Cantor, in honor of the beginning of the Christian Holy Week. Today, on Palm Sunday, Christians around the world are honoring the last days of the first century prophet Jesus' life, remembering his entrance into the holy city of Jerusalem to celebrate Passover among other Jewish people living under the Roman Empire's occupation. Today we begin the journey to Jerusalem, the Holy Week, the demand that we face the broken path, the abuse of power. Today we journey toward the dayspring, breaking through the Easter day of joy. So let us prepare the way. Let us join together this morning in worship to see what holiness resides within and about us, to welcome in the day and make straight the path for the work of God. Come, let us worship together. Our opening hymn, Come and Go With Me, comes from the African American enslavement period, referring to the justice and joy after the brave journey to freedom. please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing number 1018 in your gray hymnals, Come and Go With Me. The lyrics are also in your orders of service.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of a congregation strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Though we cannot all gather together in person during this time, we strive to live these promises every day. Please say, along with me, the words of our parish covenant as stated in your order of service. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can we hear me? Is this mic on? Yes. Okay, good. I can't ever tell from up here. All right, well, hello. For those of you who do not know me, I am Sarah Elizabeth, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration here at First Parish. And today I am just wanting to note, giving you a really wonderful adaptation of A Time for All Ages written by beloved former intern of here at First Parish, Reverend Molly Hausch-Gordon. Today we are talking about doorways. Who here knows the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Show of hands. All right, a lot of us, but many of us don't know. For those of you who don't know, this story is about a girl named Lucy discovering Narnia. See, Lucy looks for the perfect place to hide. She's looking all around. And then she finds and opens up the door to a big wardrobe, someplace where we might keep coats. She opens this wardrobe, and instead of finding coats, just a boring wardrobe, she finds the entrance to a magical world. How amazing is that? that amongst all of the ordinary, we find something amazing and magical. We all walk through doorways every day. Who here has a guess of how many doors they have walked through just this morning? Any guesses? 5. Is that raising your hand, or are we saying 5? 5, okay, we're guessing 5 doors. Any other guesses for how many doors? 20. That's a lot of doors. That's very possible. Think about it. How many of us went into our closet? 2 of our closets have doors. Maybe we went to the bathroom to brush our teeth, and then we left, and then we remembered we had to go back to the bathroom to brush our hair. You walked into the doorway maybe to the church, but then you had to go back out into the narthex to get something, and you came back through it. We were constantly walkers. Sometimes these doors are ordinary. Sometimes these doors are leading to things that are hard. Sometimes these doors are leading to things that are beautiful and exciting. So at this point, I am going to ask all of our young friends who are going to be joining with me with Ari to come up here if they are comfortable and gather with me right here. Which of my young friends would like to come join me? I know this is different. Part of the reason we are talking about doors today is because we are going on a bit of a journey. Yeah, do you want to come stand next to me, friend? Amazing. You're doing great. So we are all here, and we are journeying together. And we are going through a door that some of us have never been through. Some of us haven't been through in a long time. It has been 25 months, over 2 years, since our RE classes have been together in person during the church service. And today we're returning back to that. And so, you may have noticed, I know it's very subtle, but we have a doorway here. We have a doorway that leads to RE. We have a doorway that leads to something exciting, something familiar, and also a little bit something new. So, together we are going to go through this doorway. What do we think we're going to find on the other side of this besides RE? What are we going to find? We're going to find a church. And a church, oh, we have a straggler. Someone's ready to go on a journey and go through a doorway on their own. So we're going to find church. We're going to find community. We're going to find love. We're going to find creativity. We're going to find all of those things together. So together we're going to walk through this little walkway and then through that real door, and we're going to go someplace exciting together. I love it. So thank you all, and think about all of the wonderful doorways you go through every day. All right, are you ready to go through? Do, 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 do. It looks like you disappeared. That's amazing. Anyone want to poke their heads back out? Maybe give a picture opportunity for a parent. Oh, look, I love it. And with that, we're going to go through some more doors. Thank you, everybody.
So for the first time in 25 months, I invite you all to join together in singing Sarah Elizabeth and our kids and our volunteers to their classes with the song Long Time Son. The lyrics are in your orders of service.
This is the time during our worship service where we share the joys and concerns that are very close to our hearts and lives. I am still receiving pre-submitted candles at internminister@uuneedham.org by the Thursday before the service at midnight, which we will share at the end of the live ritual. If you are in the parish hall and have a joy or concern, all are welcome to quietly offer a stone at the altar and write your joy or concern on a slip of paper, which the pastoral care team and ministers will see at a later time with your permission. If you are watching on Zoom or YouTube, you may type your candle into the chat box to be held by the community watching the service with you. And as our services live stream to YouTube, we cannot guarantee that your joys, concerns, sorrows, or milestones will stay within the First Parish community, so you are always welcome to reach out to me, Reverend Katie, or the Pastoral Care Associate of the Week, Gail Lehman, for pastoral care or to share more privately. And now if you are in the sanctuary and have a joy or concern, please either give a wave and I will bring the microphone to you, or come forward, light a candle, and then state your name, pronouns, and briefly describe what is on your heart.
Good morning. I'm Elliot Chakowski. My wife Lynn had hand surgery this past week, and she's recovering well at home with very little pain.
Hi, I'm Reverend Katie, she, hers, and I light a candle of joy today for my daughter, who for the first time is going to RE. Yay! She's the one in the little pink mask. And it's also her second birthday today, right now. It's happening right now. Yay! We made it.
Good morning. My name is Laura Brown. She, her, I guess. I have a concern this morning for my mom and my sister. My mom had norovirus and she was hospitalized, and she was so sick I thought she was going to leave us, but she's getting better. And my sister is miserable, but she's okay.
Laura, do you want to light a candle?
Oh, yeah.
Our next candle is a candle of sorrow and outrage from the First Parish staff team over the combination of heinous war crimes in the suburbs outside of Kyiv and the missile attack on the crowded Ukrainian train station platform in Kramatorsk that killed at least 52, including children. We call on the international community for more accountability while continuing to condemn this Russian invasion. Our next candle is a candle of joy from the First Parish staff team for the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court, the first Black woman to hold a seat in the highest court of our nation. As the UUA press release on this historic confirmation wrote, "As UUs, we hold close the principle of justice, equity for all, and compassion, values that are too often absent in our criminal justice system. Judge Jackson's historic nomination gives us hope that our nation can also begin to meet these principles." Our next candle is another candle of joy from the First Parish staff team and community for Ranamana Dorfer and Jim Long and all the many other volunteers who made last night's auction a huge success. We have so much gratitude for your efforts. And our next candle is my own personal candle of joy. On March 31st, I learned that I was selected to be the candidate for settled ministry at the UU Church in Marblehead. Thank you so much. Though the news is, of course, bittersweet because it's also a reminder that my time here in Needham is gradually coming to a close, I will be carrying with me the blessings and learnings of our shared time together into this next chapter with a grateful heart. I'll be up in Marblehead and off from First Parish from April 23rd to May 1st as the last step of the process to be called as their next settled minister. For all the joys and all the sorrows that we still hold in our hearts, and for the prayers of our neighbors near and far, we light one final silent candle. May the peace in this sanctuary be felt too in each of your homes, as we remember that even though worshiping in different times and places, we are still deeply connected. Amen.
I'll be taking over for Jenna as she goes to help volunteer downstairs with Ari, as we need a lot of volunteers to make that run, and it's been a little while since we've done that. Will you join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation? Let us hold in our hearts with deep breaths in and out these words excerpted from Enfleshed, a Christian collaborative of anti-oppressive and liberatory writing. Spirit of life and love, save us from the idols of unity that keep the weight of our collective problems on the backs of the suffering and oppressed. Save us from toxic understandings of gender that confine, that destroy, that encourage violence against self and others. Save us from colorblindness that hides the destruction of white supremacy, from white fragility that keeps away honesty and change, from performance politics that prioritize perception over action, from the limits of identity politics and representation that oversimplify paths to freedom. Save us from corporations who make a profit through advertisements and campaigns that project social concern, all while evading their taxes and destroying our planet. Save us from an impossible pace not meant for survival, only for production. Save us from the violence done in the name of the law through police brutality, the war on drugs, deportations and violence at the border, abuse of incarcerated trans women, stop and frisk, the criminalization of sex work, and all that drives a morality shaped by dominance and control. Save us from easy answers, from individualism, from liberal theologies that perpetuate the status quo, from binary thinking, from not all men, not all white people, from our desire to hold on to unjust power, from our fear of claiming righteous power. Save us from churches that do violence and from churches who do not disrupt violence against us. You free us from traps of guilt. You show us the way of liberation that welcomes all who desire justice and healing. Your grace leads us in learning and unlearning. You manifest both softly and fiercely. Your love is a catalyst that opens possibilities we cannot yet imagine. Turn us towards each other. Our salvation is collective. Hosanna. Amen. Please now remain seated and join in singing our meditative response, verses 1 and 3 of Do You Hear? This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. And this is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of the church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. For the month of April, we'll be sharing our collection 50-50 with the Needham Community Farm. The Needham Community Farm is a nonprofit right here in town that educates people about sustainable growing, helps volunteers get back in touch with the earth and with each other, and supplies fresh seasonal produce to the Needham Community Council Food Pantry and Needham Housing Authority sites. To donate to our collection, you can use one of 3 different methods. You can use text to give at the number 73256. You can donate through our website, uuneedham.org, under the giving box, or you can write a check or give cash in the offering plate or mail it to First Parish at 23 Dedham Avenue. All the details are in your orders of service, and whatever way you give, please be sure to specify whether your gift is for the Sunday collection, for your 2022 pledge, or even for your 2023 pledge. Thank you for all you do to support First Parish and our community partners. And many thanks to Lynn Franceschi for our beautiful flowers today, in loving memory of her brother John, whose birthday was in April. May the ushers now please come forward.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno, but it was our wedding day. We were getting ready and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Bruno walks in with a mischievous grin. You telling the story or mine? Bruno says it looks like rain.
What did he tell us?
To win, so he floods my brain.
Abuela, get the umbrella.
Married in a hurricane.
What a joyous day, but anyway,
we don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno.
Bruno live in fear, Bruno stuttering and stumbling. I can always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling. I associate him with the sound of falling sand. It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always left Abuela and the family fumbling, grappling with the prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you understand?
7-foot frame, rats along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams, feast based on your screams. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. He told me that the power would grow like the grapes that thrive on the vine.
Oh yeah, Mariano's on his way.
He told me that the man of my dreams would be just out of reach, betrothed to another. It's like I hear him now.
I want
It's
not a
like I hear
sound out
him
of
now. I can hear him now.
Bruno, yeah, about that Bruno. I really need to know about Bruno. Give me the truth and the whole truth, Bruno.
He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. He told me that my power would grow like the grapes that thrive on the vine and vine. He told me that the life of my dreams would be promised, someday be mine. I'm fine, I'll be fine. Don't talk about Bruno.
I talk about Bruno.
Not a word about Bruno.
Never should have brought up Bruno.
We have two short readings this morning, the first from the Christian Scriptures and the second from modern Black writer and educator Charles Coe, who gave an inspiring workshop over Zoom to our gathered first parishioners last Sunday afternoon. Our first reading is from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 16, likely written about 50 years after the prophet Jesus' execution. It offers a story of the first time Jesus prophesied his own death to his followers. He said to the disciples, "But who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah." From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering and be killed, and on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "God forbid it, Lord, this must never happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Our second reading is from Charles Coe's poem, Marksmanship. My mother would sometimes toss off comments that might seem innocuous to observers, but for the intended target were fraught with meaning, darts dipped in neurotoxin that caused instant paralysis. She couldn't help herself, the way a tongue cannot resist a loose tooth. I know now what I didn't know then, that cruelty is the child of fear. But I don't know, will never know, what faceless demons guided her aim as each black-feathered shaft struck home. Here ends our readings. There are at least two things we're not talking about when we don't talk about Bruno. The first is intergenerational trauma, and the second is unwelcome prophecy. It may seem a little heavy for an animated Disney film, but then again, didn't many of us grow up on Bambi, Cinderella, Dumbo? Our world is full of love and light, and it also has hatred, violence, and tragedy. This reality is reflected in the stories we create and tell ourselves and the children among us. In the film Encanto, our protagonist, young Mirabel Madrigal, has a family gifted with incredible magical powers. Her mother can heal physical wounds through food she's cooked. Her aunt's emotions influence the weather. Her older sisters, respectively, are super strong and can make any plant grow. And her cousins can shapeshift, talk to animals, and hear anything in their little Colombian village, also called Encanto or Charmed. Even their family home, Casita, is magical. While there is a certain relative the family madrigal do not talk about, they do talk about the head of the family, Abuela Elma, who fiercely loves her family and who brought the magic to Encanto, her beautiful little village hidden by mountains on all sides. Abuela is warm and generous to the village, but she is a harsh, rigid matriarch for her family, demanding they each share their gifts in very particular ways. For Abuela, if everyone in her family just did what she told them to, there would be no problems in the family or in the village. We heard this in our Prelude from the Song Squad, the song Surface Pressure, the song of our people, eldest daughters and only daughters. Sung in the film by our protagonist, Mirabel's older, super strong sister, Louisa. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service, a flaw or a crack, the straw in the stack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? It's pressure, like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Pressure that'll tip, 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 till you just go pop. Give it to your sister's older. Give her all the heavy things we can't shoulder. Who am I if I don't have what it takes? No cracks, no breaks, no mistakes. Abuela's intentions are good, for her family's magic to serve the wider community. But the pressure she puts on her family causes deep harm, including to the exile of Mirabel's uncle, Tio Bruno, her mother and her aunt's triplet brother. They don't talk about him. His magic did not gain Abuela's approval, and we'll come back to that. In a critical assessment of the film, Chicana critic and writer Kate Sanchez wrote, "The same meanness we see from Abuela I saw from my mom. Small moments that add up over time to make you feel small. Drip, drip, drip. They're meant to push you, but they break you instead. And the pain is too much to forgive at times." The film's villain, Abuela, is driven by love. She's driven by the need to keep her family safe and to keep the madrigals surviving and growing and honoring the sacrifice. What sacrifice? The family also doesn't talk about how Abuela was gifted the magic of her hidden village and the superpowers for her children and grandchildren. I was reminded of Abuela and the family madrigal when I heard Charles Coe share his poem Marksmanship. Cruelty is the child of fear, but I don't know, will never know, what faceless demons guided my mother's aim as each black-feathered shaft struck home. I don't want to spoil the movie for those of you who haven't seen it, but the faceless demon guiding Abuela is trauma. Abuela experienced communal and personal trauma. A loved one was murdered before her very eyes by violent intruders who had driven her family and her neighbors out from their home. As she cries out in grief and anger, magic is bestowed upon her family, and mountains are raised between her fellow refugees and the invaders. Queer Euro-American trauma survivor, storyteller, and musician Britt Cannon reminds us that most generational trauma comes from a systemic source. Things like poverty, addiction, the grief from death, war, and political conflict, untreated mental illness due to a lack of access to proper health care, and these can traumatize all individuals, and if unacknowledged, whether by choice or by lack of access to health or information, that trauma can be carried into relationships and passed down to children. Within the rainforest walls of Encanto, Abuela may have no idea if the conflict which brought them there ever ended. The threat of losing everything, of going back to a violent world, of facing all that pain again, of seeing her children and grandchildren put in harm's way, basically, the threat of reliving the trauma of losing someone she loves ends up driving her toxicity. The unconscious drive to get out of discomfort and create safety becomes the motivating factor for most unhealthy decisions. In an interview with On Being, modern Black therapist and author Resmaa Menakem says that trauma and its effects can be passed down for 14 generations. That's 400 to 500 years, both by different activations and mutations in our DNA and, of course, by nurture from traumatized caregivers. parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, siblings. Speaking specifically about the racial trauma as a black man, Menachem says, "For my black body to be born into a society by which the white body is the standard is, in and of itself, traumatizing. And if my mom is born as a black woman into a society that predicates her body as deviant, the amount of cortisol in her mind, in her nervous system when I'm being born is teaching my nervous system something. Trauma decontextualized in a person looks like personality. Trauma decontextualized in a family looks like family traits. Trauma in a people looks like culture." The magic of the family madrigal came from surviving a horrific trauma. Many of the elders in their village also experienced the same communal trauma as Abuela Alma. But surviving trauma does not mean one has recovered from trauma. And without acknowledgement of trauma and the work to heal from it, we are prone to acting in ways that are unskillful, to borrow a term from Buddhist teachings. And then those unskillful behaviors are passed on to the next 14 generations. After watching Encanto, Jewish-Israeli-American artist and writer Lior Zaltzman reflected on her own ancestors' survival in the Holocaust and the harrowing effects of intergenerational trauma. "Some days I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of my own family's trauma and the heaviness it has set in my bones. The way it makes it sometimes hard to move around in the world. The way I was raised to feel like life is always one step away from disaster and annihilation." Our world is full of love and light, and it also has hatred, violence, and tragedy. We can celebrate every move forward toward a more just and equitable society, but justice now does not erase the discrimination and harm of the past. We can look forward and understand that trauma, that context is carried with us. We can celebrate the resiliency of our faith community while acknowledging the real toll of the pandemic that it's taken upon us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. This is the way of the Ghanaian Sankofa bird symbol, to retrieve and heal the past as we continue to move forward. It helps us too when we reflect on the Christian story of Holy Week, beginning today with Jesus welcomed into the city of Jerusalem at Passover by crowds waving palm fronds, shouting, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest heaven." We have to remember the traumatic context of a people yearning for freedom and occupied by a powerful and coercive empire. Jesus' community had been through great intergenerational trauma, and the Roman Empire was not kind to those who were proclaimed a new king. But if we're going to talk a bit about Jesus, we ought to talk a little bit about Bruno, shouldn't we? I promised that. We see in Encanto that under Abuela Alma's pressure, it's not just Big Sister Luisa who's about to crack. Casita, their magical sentient home, is also literally cracking. Only our protagonist, Mirabel, seems to notice this, and Abuela tells her and everyone else again and again that Casita is strong, the magic is strong. Abuela does not want to see what's happening right in front of her if what's happening is unpleasant. And this is what got Tio Bruno in trouble, as his gift was the gift of prophecy. As we heard from Laura and Kelvin, it's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling, always left Abuela and the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Tio Bruno sees what's coming, and even when it's something inevitable, unavoidable, a goldfish dying, a gut forming, hair falling out, the messenger is blamed. Bruno is feared in the village and barely tolerated by his own family. And as we've already discussed, his mother, Abuela Alma, craves security and control, and she cannot control Bruno's visions because, in fact, none of us can fully control the future. Under such conditions, it seems that the easy way out is for Bruno to disappear, never to be spoken of again. It's a modern iteration of the curse of Cassandra from ancient Greek mythology, a Trojan prophetess who spurns the affections of the god Apollo, and because the Greek gods are just baseline, they're awful. Because they're awful, Apollo curses Cassandra that while she would know the future, no one would ever believe her prophecies. We might know how that got Troy in trouble later on. In Encanto, our protagonist Mirabelle wonders if her Tio Bruno's powers and exile has something to do with the weakening of her family's miraculous magic. She sets out to learn about him, find his buried visions, to find Bruno himself. She does talk about Bruno, and it causes quite a kerfuffle. In our first reading, I shared with you that when the prophet Jesus shared for the first time his unpleasant prophecy that he would be executed, his leading disciple, Peter, said, "God forbid it, Lord, this must never happen to you." This more or less happens every time Jesus tells his disciples that he will be killed. Their community has already experienced so much trauma, so much loss. They cannot accept his vision. Not even the last time he tells them over dinner, after he's come into a Roman-occupied city proclaimed as a king and gotten into violent physical and verbal altercations at the center of religious commerce in Jerusalem. I love this very brief Holy Week reflection from modern Indian Christian theologian Arvind Theodore. It is much easier today to say Jesus died for my sins than to say Jesus was killed for opposing evil, because the latter demands us to identify falsehood and oppose systems of oppression, while the former ends up purging us of the need to do justice. How might the story have changed if they had listened to prophecy? For those who have seen Encanto, what might the family madrigal done differently if they had listened to Mirabelle, if they'd listened to Bruno sooner? What if the family and the community looked at systemic problems that were hurting them instead of ignoring them, and worse, often blaming powerless individuals? And for us, here and now, how are we treating the Cassandras in our life? And I don't mean for us to lament our own Cassandra moments, but to think about how we treat others, the Mirabelles and Tio Brunos in our family, the prophets in our faith and in our wider world, even our therapists. Are we listening to those preaching about climate justice, about an end to oppression, about supporting our neighbors and relatives, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not profitable? It is painful to acknowledge the ruptures, inadequacies, and unskillful means in ourselves and our communities. But in the long run, burying them will do us no good. We cannot fix what's broken or change what's designed to be unfair if we refuse to see. Blessed are the brave ones guiding all of us toward more compassion, more health, more hope in this challenging world. Or as Euro-American Methodist minister and artist Reverend Jan Richardson says it, "Blessed is the one who comes to us by the way of love poured out with abandon. Blessed is the one who walks towards us by the way of grace that holds us fast. Blessed is the one who calls us to follow in the way of blessing, in the path of joy." And blessed are we all, we who are brave enough to accept such love and grace and move forward toward joy and healing. Blessed be, and amen. As we near the close of our service, remember that all are invited to our social hours on Zoom and in the parish hall. And remember that for social hour in the parish hall, you must keep your mask on over your nose and mouth at all times. Keep a careful eye out for emails from First Parish and follow us on social media so you can keep up with opportunities for connection for all ages throughout the week and with updates on our reopening and COVID-19 precautions. You can sign up for our weekly email, the Bell Notes, by clicking on subscribe to newsletter on our website, uuneedham.org. Coming up at First Parish this week, you can join us tomorrow on the front lawn at 11 a.m. as we ring our Paul Revere bell at 11 on the 11th day of the month to signal that we are in the 11th hour of the climate crisis. You can connect with First Parishioners throughout the week, too, at the Lane Lyceum this Tuesday evening, Writing Escapes Vespers, Meditation on Thursday, Creative Escapes and the weekly Vigil for the Climate, or the Ecumenical Good Friday service over at First Baptist on Friday, the Blood Drive on Saturday, you heard Sue King talk about last week, or the Caregivers Support Group next Sunday. And there are 3 special announcements to especially highlight. First, for Easter Sunday, next Sunday, we'll only have one service at 10:30 a.m. in the sanctuary, live streamed online and over into the parish hall. Stick around for a special Easter egg hunt afterwards, too, if you're interested. Next, our memorial windows out in the hallway here have been updated to include 9 more names of First Parishioners and family members of blessed memory. Folks are invited to look at the memorial windows in person today if you're here, or on a future Sunday. And finally, with many thanks again to Rhonda Monadorfer, Jim Long, and many other volunteers who made last night's live auction such a success, please know that the online silent auction is still open on Bidding Owl until 8 p.m. tonight. So if you haven't gotten the chance to bid or you thought you'd been outbid, now is the time to log in and bid again. Maybe not right this second, in like 10 minutes. Please remember, if you fall ill or need any pastoral support, to reach out to Jenna, myself, or our pastoral care team and caring crew via phone or email, and to reach out to our parish administrator, Susanna Whitman, if you have trouble signing up for the Bell Notes or logging into our online directory, The Realm. Susanna is actually also here in person today for the first time in 25 months, so you could also just go say hi to her. But if you are having trouble online, this is a good opportunity to ask. We always extinguish our chalice here with words promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is until we are all together again. Please join me from home or here in the building saying these words written by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Elizabeth Sally Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts
until we are together again.
Our closing hymn, O Young and Fearless Prophet, was written by 20th century congregational minister and educator Reverend Samuel Ralph Harlow, and the tune is from 19th century Welsh farmer and composer William Lloyd. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing number 276 in your gray hymnals, O Young and Fearless Prophet. The lyrics are also in your orders of service.
To
As we close our worship today, take these words from disabled and genderqueer Latina UU minister, Reverend Teresa Enes Soto, with you as a benediction. There must be fuel. There must be a spark, and there must be oxygen. The spark is what passes between us, along with our aliveness, our possibility. The spark is a seed of fire that must be treasured and tended that it may bring light. All of these are an invitation to bring to life the blaze of liberation that is meant to light our way and to dispel the fog of cruelty and grief. It brings us instead to a hearth around which we gather to be nourished, energized, and warmed, and when we are ready to disperse, enlivened. Our service begins when our service ends. Blessed be, and amen.
I just made something unexpected, something sharp, something new. It's not symmetrical or perfect, but it's beautiful, and it's mine. What else can I do?
Bring it in, bring it in.
What else can I do?
Bring it in, free hugs. Bring it in, bring it in.
I grow rows and rows of roses, Flor de Mayo, by the mile. I make perfect, practiced poses. So much hides behind my smile. What could I do if I just grew what I was feeling in the moment?
Do you know where you're going?
What could I do if I just knew it didn't need to be perfect? It just needed to be, and they let me be a hurricane of your carandas, strangling figs, hanging vines. Pomada Sarah fills the air as I find and I push through. What else can I do? Can I deliver us a river of sundew? Careful, it's carnivorous, a little just won't do. I want to feel the shiver of something new. I'm so sick of pretty, I want something true, don't you?
You just seem like your life's been a dream since the moment you opened your eyes.
How far do these roots go